Alright, it's Barry, and today on Grow It I've got my first allotment update of the year. It's the first week of April this week and it's absolutely freezing. We had a really good end to March and I think it was around 20 degrees or something, but now we're back down to single figures again. When I got here this morning it was only 1 degree Celsius, which isn't very good at all. I think it's only going to be around for this week, and then next week we should be back to spring temperatures, I hope. It's not going to be a tremendously long update today because it's still fairly early for me as far as growing goes, and I only started the bulk of my plants in the last week or two, but there's a few bits on the go, and I've also got an update on the onion that I'm growing from a bit of scrap onion from last year. Before I get going, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that subscribed to my channel so far. I've just passed 1,000 subscribers this week, which is absolutely amazing. It's 11 months since I started the channel with the plan to make a plant science channel, and it's sort of turned into this along the way. Funnily, my first video about feeding tomatoes is still one of my best performing videos, and a lot's changed since then. The main benefit of hitting 1,000 subscribers is that YouTube will now give me a community tab on my channel where I can put pictures and statuses and questions and polls to get your feedback on videos and things that you'd like to see me make videos about. I can also do more frequent updates on things that I do, like the onion experiment, without having to make a full video about it. I think if it's not already there by the time this video goes live, it should be there in the next couple of days, so do check that out and join me over there. And if you haven't already subscribed, give it a go now. So here's the new staging that I put in a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't happy with having to keep everything on the floor all the time, especially after my sweet peas got eaten by a mouse over the winter. I've also got this wooden section down here, which is what I've had to do to fix the greenhouse after the vandals smashed it over the winter, but it's only a couple of pieces and it's not the end of the world having it like this. I don't mind it actually. Luckily I don't have tons of seedlings actively growing, so I can manage to protect the ones that have germinated already just by having my paraffin heater on low underneath. And what I do is I put some layers of bubble wrap over the top, and as the heat rises it can get up through the gaps in the shelf underneath, and then the bubble wrap traps it inside, and it's staying in around 6 degrees in there, so that's at least enough to keep them from being damaged. As far as germination goes, I've got this tray here in the front, which is red cabbage, white cabbage and Brussels sprouts. I've also lost a couple which were just the weak seedlings, but I did sow extras just in case, and all of these are looking great and they're all ready to be potted now as well, so I'll be getting that done over the next day or two. I've also got a full tray of dahlia seedlings just here at the back, and these are in the same boat. They really need potting up to get some more room to grow. These are half zinnia cactus mix and half California mix, and they're doing great up to now. Apart from that, there's not a great deal going on here germination wise. I've got signs of my spring onions coming through. These are Secure bunching onions, and I've literally stuck around 6 seeds in each cell, and I'll just grow them in here and then put the whole cell into a pot without separating the seedlings. I've got all sorts going on. I've got more chilies at the back, another 2 trays of tomatoes growing, which I started in my tomato sowing guide. I think I noticed yesterday I've got 1 or 2 of those coming through, so the others shouldn't be far behind. I've got comfrey, rhubarb, spinach over here, and a full tray of lettuces, but again I'm still waiting for these to germinate. There's not much point showing you loads of close-ups of soil, so I'll just move on. Here's my onion, which is growing from the scrap piece of onion that I planted last year, and if you haven't watched that one, I'll leave a link in the description, and it's a really good way to show you how bulbs grow and all that business. As you can see, it's still fairly small. I did do the video at the end of the onion season, so it's managed to get a bit of growth in before it went into dormancy over winter, and it is back growing now, and it's looking really healthy. As you can see there, it does look like I've got around 3 plants growing, and they do look to be growing individually. The main thing that might happen here is that they might go to flower this year, as it has had a full life cycle. It's had the initial growth from seed, and then I planted it here as a set. I harvested it when it was fully grown, and then I cut the end off and grew the new roots and planted the scrap end, and now it's grown again and gone through winter, so that should make the onion think that it has gone through winter and it's at its 2nd year, so that does mean it's time to flower. But we'll see what happens and whether these stems do swell up anymore. Just over here I've got my peas and my beans, which are growing nicely, and again these are ready for planting, but I have been waiting for this extra cold weather to pass first, and I'm just hoping that the plants aren't held back too much by putting it off. But they're just a first sowing anyway, so it's not the end of the world. And just at the back on the right there I've got my broad beans, and they are looking great. I'll be growing these up outside some arching once I've sorted that out this week. And I've also got my sweet peas too, which are also coming along nicely. Just at the front here I've got my 2 trays of peas in the little pressed cardboard pot things. I've had my first signs of germination on these yesterday as well, so that's a good sign. I think I'll be growing these up the back side of the tunnel just to keep the birds off them. The most important news in the greenhouse is that my kiwi plant survived the winter and it is starting to grow its first leaves. I'm still not expecting any fruit from this until at least next year, hopefully, but this year will be all about training it to the shape of the greenhouse and just hope for the best, and that is it for inside. Outside in my first bed, I've got my carrot seeds in over the weekend. I've mostly got orange Nance 5 and a couple of heirloom purple ones as well, just for a first sowing. And I've also got my garlic growing on the other side as well. These have started growing now after winter dormancy, and it looks like all those weeds and grass that I planted are also growing nicely, and definitely not just because I haven't pulled them up. In the next bed, I've got all of the flower bulbs growing that I planted for my cheap bulb comparison video last year. At the moment, they're on the verge of flowering and they're all doing really well. The iris bulbs all flowered in early March and they were really nice, and the leftover ones that I put in the containers have been fantastic as well. Here's the tulips, and I do think these were the ones from Poundland. They're fantastic for the price, and honestly for £1 for a load of these bulbs, they're an absolute bargain. The raspberries are coming out of dormancy now and they're looking great. There's plenty of leaves coming through and there's some new canes coming up as well. As you can see there, I've marked all the canes from last year with orange tape so that once they've all fruited this year, I can cut these ones back without mixing them up with the new canes that grow this year for next year's fruit. I've also got my first early potatoes in the raised bed, but again, nothing to show over there yet other than a close-up of soil. And now in the tunnel, I'm mostly going to be using grow bags this year, just for convenience really. We didn't get the mega 700 tonne council compost drop this year because obviously they weren't doing the green bin collections for all of 2020, so rather than take out a mortgage to fill this with compost and soil, I'm just going to use the grow bags for now and just see how I get on. At the moment I've got 2 grow bags just there with a couple of lettuces growing, and I'm going to be growing a lot of lettuces this year to keep my entourage of guinea pigs and tortoise happy, so I imagine in a couple of months time this is going to have a lot more of these. I've got the rhubarb crown down here that I planted in around January, and that looks like it's doing alright. It's got a bit of growth showing now, so that's great, and another 2 or 3 years and that'll be belting. That's just compost on the cardboard around it, so I don't water that at the moment. Just behind me here is my apple tree, and I'm made up with this because it's flowering this year for the first time. It's got these really nice dark pink flowers coming and loads of leaves, and I really didn't want to dig it up and try moving it after it did so well last year, so I decided to just keep it in here and I'll just train it to the tunnel shape using the frame, and the ends open up entirely as well, so pollination isn't a problem. There's apple trees everywhere around here as well, so there's plenty of pollinators buzzing about. And that's everything for now. Not a great deal to show, but some promising signs of things to come over the next couple of weeks. Once this cold spell's over, I'll be getting in my sunflowers, pumpkins, cucumbers, melons, and everything else, so I'll be looking forward to that. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and be sure to let me know how your plants are getting on in the comment section. And also join me in the new community tab on my main channel page, and I'll see you next time.